All right, thank you. Good afternoon again. After we're done, after you're done with me, you will be joined by Ambassador Jamal Faris Al-Ruwaihi, who, as you know, is the permanent representative of the Kingdom of Bahrain to the United Nations, and for today's purposes, President of the Security Council for the month of April. He will brief you on the program of work, and we'll have our wonderful interpreters for English and Arabic provided. And for those of you listening online, a reminder that the Zoom function will not work. It'll just be questions from the room, but it will be webcast on UN Web TV, of course. Turning to the Middle East, as the situation continues to be very volatile with ongoing hostilities, especially impacting our peacekeeping operations in Lebanon. Tragically, as you know, the UN Interim Force in Lebanon, UNIFIL, has suffered 3 fatalities in the last few days. And as we've said repeatedly, these incidents are unacceptable and demand full accountability. Investigations by us are underway, and despite the challenging situation on the ground, we hope to be able to update you with those results as soon as possible. These investigations take time as technical experts examine physical evidence on the scene, while others look at the context and liaise with parties to collect and verify information. The circumstances on the ground are such that deconflicting with parties in some instances have prevented the timely access of UN personnel to the incident scenes for investigations, and that, of course, has caused delays. However, as Jean-Pierre Lacroix told troop contributing countries just a few hours ago here, our firm commitment remains to establishing the full facts and the circumstances around each and every one of these incidents. Also he reminded them that attacks on UN peacekeepers may constitute war crimes under international law. Meanwhile, he stressed that developments on the ground were continuously being monitored to enhance the safety and security and to mitigate risks, including physical measures, reduced exposure, and strong communications. He also expressed his most sincere gratitude for the commitment of our courageous men and women serving in our peace operations in the Middle East, such as under such challenging conditions, fulfilling their mandates given to them by the Security Council. And also in Lebanon today, Tom Fletcher, our Undersecretary General, remains in Lebanon. As we told you, he met today with Nabi Berri, the Speaker of the Lebanese Parliament. Mr. Fletcher spent the last 2 days witnessing firsthand the devastating impact of the conflict that Lebanon has been dragged into on the humanitarian situation in the country. He visited a collective shelter and met with displaced families and frontline responders, including Lebanese Red Cross staff and ambulance teams. The scale of the humanitarian needs continue to outpace our available resources. We've received just $94 million of the $308 million we asked for in the recent flash appeal. We urgently need more funding to not only sustain, but to scale up our operations. We and our humanitarian partners are continuing to do whatever we can to protect and to help people. We've reached thousands of children and their caregivers with psychosocial support, and we're working to reunite families and alert people to the dangers posed by unexploded ordinances. Mr. Fletcher also visited the country's border with Syria, where more than 200,000 people have now crossed from Lebanon into Syria since the start of the escalation. Tom met with some families who've chosen to return to Syria from Lebanon. Many of them told him of their determination to return to their communities and contribute to rebuilding their country. We and our partners on both sides of the border of the blue line. We and our partners on both sides of the border continue to support people on the move and ensure that aid reaches those who need it. Following his travels to Lebanon, Mr. Fletcher will travel to Syria, where he will be joined by Alexander De Croo, the administrator of the UN Development Program. Their joint visit is there to underscore the need to move from a humanitarian response to a development, recovery, and reconstruction phase. During their visit, they are expected to meet with the president of Syria, Ahmed al-Shara, the foreign minister, Assad al-Shaibani, and other senior government officials, as well as people who have returned to Syria following years of conflict. They will also visit a UNDP-backed site that supports the clearing of debris and unexploded remnants of war. Together with the government, Mr. Fletcher and Mr. Ducreux will take part in the launch of this year's Humanitarian Needs and Response Plan and the launch of Syria's Statement of Recovery Priorities and on recovery priorities for international cooperation. And we expect both Mr. Ducreux and Mr. Fletcher to brief you here via video from Syria, and that'll be tomorrow at 11 a.m. From this in this very room. Our good friends at the UN Trade and Development Office, or UNCTAD for short, have said in a report issued today that maritime traffic through the Strait of Hormuz has come to a near halt with 95% drop in daily ship transit over the past months. As a result, UNCTAD forecasts a drop by at least a percentage point in annual merchandise trade growth, as well as rising inflation spurred by surge in crude oil prices. UNCTAD forecasts a drop in world GDP to about 2.6% by the end of the year, as well as a fall in stock markets and a depreciation of currencies in developing countries. Among other things, the agency calls for governments to consider a policy of mix to stabilize price levels as inflation pressure rise, particularly for vulnerable population, and for development banks to be empowered to provide emergency loans. Also, just want to flag for you something that caught our interest today, and that is update from Volker Turk, the High Commissioner for Human Rights, who warned today that restrictions on civic space and freedom of expression have significantly risen across the Middle East since the U.S. And Israeli attacks on Iran and the start of the conflict. He said the waves of arrest and broad clampdowns, mostly on vaguely defined accusations, have deeply chilling effect on people, many of whom are already living with uncertainty, fear, and anxiety. The rest is online. And turning to Gaza, our colleagues at the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs tell us that we and our partners are continuing to deliver critical assistance despite the pressure on Karim Shalom Karim Abu Salam, the only crossing that is open for cargo. Yesterday, humanitarians brought over 270,000 liters of fuel into Gaza to keep critical humanitarian services running. Meanwhile, the Food and Agricultural Organization collected animal fodder, while UNICEF was able to retrieve 240 pallets of supplies that included nutrition, medicines, and kits containing sanitary pads, as well as toothpaste, a body wash, underwear, and scarves. OCHA reiterates that to scale up the response, more crossing must be open for the movement of people and cargo. Today, our colleagues from FAO also announced the scale-up of their cash assistance to reactivate local crop production for an additional 1,000 farmers in Gaza. The assistance builds on a successful pilot that was launched last year when 200 farmers managed to grow more than 500 metric tons of fresh vegetables, with support received through the Humanitarian Fund for the Occupied Palestinian Territory. With today's scale-up, FAO estimates that farmers will be able to feed some 95,000 people for a whole year by producing roughly 5,000 metric tons of vegetables. This will help address food insecurity while boosting employment and income generation in Gaza. Also, I was asked earlier by some of you about the latest travels of the Secretary General's personal envoy for Sudan, Pekka Haavisto. He concluded at the weekend his visit to Sudan, where he, as we told you, he met with a range of Sudanese stakeholders, including General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, the chair of the Sovereign Council and commander-in-chief of the Sudanese Armed Forces. The personal envoy then traveled to Addis Ababa, where he is based, for introductory meetings with senior African Union officials, including the African Union Commission chairperson. Mr. Haavisto is now in Cairo for engagements with the Egyptian authorities, the League of Arab States, and Sudanese actors in Cairo. From there, he'll travel to Nairobi for further discussions. Mr. Haavisto will continue to engage with the parties and the other stakeholders in support of urgently needed progress towards a durable peace. And moving to this continent, the UN Support Office in Haiti today said it had met the timeline to provide the gang suppression force with the full logistical and operational support in accordance with Security Council Resolution 2793. The mandated timeline of February 1st, 2026 to assume full responsibility for the provision on a cost recovery basis of the standard range of mission support to the integrated UN office in Haiti has also been met. Our Undersecretary General for Operational support. Atul Kare traveled to the Dominican Republic and Haiti this week to mark this successful achievement. Yesterday, Mr. Kare and Daniela Kroslak, the head of the UN support in Haiti, met with the Prime Minister of Haiti, Alix Didier Fils-Aimé, and also with the Foreign Minister, Raina Forbin. The Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister confirmed their intention to continue to work closely in partnership with the UN Support Office in Haiti throughout the design and construction phase. The UN Support Office in Haiti is now prepared to provide living and office accommodations, medical support, and other key services to the gang suppression force. The Support Office has deployed 2 helicopters, which will provide the necessary mobility between Port-au-Prince and Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic. A small office has also been established in Santo Domingo to provide back office support to both our UN entities in Haiti. And just to flag, today, the Justice and Corrections Services of the UN Peacebuilding and Peace Support Office is marking its 15th anniversary of its Justice and Corrections standing capacity. Over the past 15 years, the standing capacity has provided rapid, specialized support to 37 UN peace operations and other UN settings, helping to strengthen the justice and correction systems as a foundation for sustainable peace. Its work is focused on supporting transitions, advancing climate, peace, and security, and reinforcing the rule of law, including efforts on criminal accountability and conflict-related sexual violence. A couple of new resident coordinators today. The Secretary General has appointed Stephen Jackson of Ireland as the new resident coordinator in China, Gary Conneal of Haiti as the new resident coordinator in Kenya, and Shalini Bahugna of India as the new resident coordinator in Papua New Guinea. All 3 of them took up their post today. They all bring decades of experience. We congratulate them on their new appointments. Also, just want to read into the record the appointment we shared yesterday, in which the Secretary General appointed Mari Yamashita of Japan as a senior representative for the implementation of Security Council Resolution 2792. Does anyone remember what 2792 is? I didn't think so. In her role as senior representative, she will support the continued progress on the outstanding issues of Kuwaiti missing persons and property, including the National Archives, as outlined in that Security Council. And that follows the conclusion of the mandate of the UN Assistance Mission in Iraq, which was holding that file. Ms. Yamashita brings to the position a broad range of experience. She had been most recently officer in charge of the UN support mission in Hodeidah. We congratulate our good friend Mari on this important appointment. We don't have a quiz, but I do want to talk to you about money. Bring it in. I'll pass the hat soon. But I want to give you a full summary of the regular budget contributions we received for the first 3 months of this year. From January 1st to March 31st of this year, we received full contributions from 97 member states for a total of $1,433,605,419. For comparison purposes, the same period last year, we received full contributions from only 85 countries, and we had received less money. We'd received about 47 million less. Just as a reminder, our budget is $3.45 billion. So we thank those who've paid up, and we encourage those who have not to pay, especially if they want a quiz. Edie.
Thank you, Steph. When Undersecretary General Tom Fletcher met Nabi Berry, did they discuss the Israeli announcement about a chunk of hundreds of thousands of Lebanese not being able to return to southern Lebanon, which is going to be occupied by Israeli forces, and the humanitarian impact?
I don't have the details of what they discussed, but I can safely say that the issue of the humanitarian disaster that is facing the people of Lebanon, especially those who live south of the Litani River, was high, if not number one item on the agenda.
And secondly, on Sudan, our new envoy, the UN's new envoy, met with General Burhan.
Yeah.
Has he made an effort to meet with the RSF commander? And what, I didn't hear any mention of that meeting
No, of course,
taking
he will.
place.
I can assure you that in his role, he will meet at some point with the head of the RSF. As I mentioned, Mr. Havisto was in Sudan, went then on to Addis, is now in Egypt, and then will head off to Nairobi, a place where there is also a number of Sudanese political actors who are there. Gabriel.
Thanks, Steph. On the investigation to the killing of the 3 UNIFIL blue helmets, I know you normally don't like to prejudge how long investigations will take. However, I'm going to ask you, given the serious nature of this, what is the expectation by the Secretary General on when this will be
The
concluded?
expectation of the Secretary General is for it to be done as quickly as possible, as safely as possible. We're talking about doing a forensic investigation in the midst of a conflict zone. As I mentioned, for the right people from UNIFIL to go back to the place where those incidents happen, they need to deconflict. We do not want to see a situation where those who are investigating an attack or an incident are they themselves put in harm's way as part of that investigation. So I think Mr. Lacroix is determined to get this done as quickly as possible, because we've seen a lot of people comment about saying who's responsible and who's not responsible. So we need to establish the facts so we can come out with it and come out with it as quickly as possible.
And the expectation by the Secretary General is that the investigation will determine not only what killed them, but who killed them?
In as much as possible. I mean, you can't. I can't prejudge not only the time limit, but what they will find. They may not be able to conclude, but I don't want to go. I don't want to prejudge anything. Sylviane and then Joe.
Thank you, Steph. Lebanon has informed the United Nations in a letter that it has outlawed Hezbollah military wing. This letter has been...
what, sorry?
Lebanon
Yeah.
has informed the UN
Right.
in a letter that it has outlawed Hezbollah's military wing. This letter has been published yesterday, but it has been sent 3 weeks ago. Any reaction and follow-up from the UN on this issue?
The Secretary General's position has been very clear from the beginning, and he said it to the Lebanese president and prime minister and the Speaker of the House when he went there recently, and we went there last year, is that we fully support the Lebanese government's efforts to ensure that they are the sole holders of force, that their authority is extended throughout the territory. And we call on all of everyone, to respect the government and the authority of the government of Lebanon in that regard. Mr. Klein, nice to see you.
Thank you. My question regards, again, the Secretary General's repeated call for a return to negotiations between the U.S., Israel, and Iran. As you know, President Trump is going to be speaking tonight on the subject of Iran. Would the Secretary General be happy with a conditional ceasefire proposal? In other words, a proposal that ties agreement to a ceasefire to Iran's agreement to, for example, abandon its uranium enrichment program and surrender the stockpiles it already has? Or does the Secretary General believe there should be an immediate and unconditional ceasefire?
The Secretary General is not going to prejudge. He is not, not that it needs to be reminded, he is not a party to this conflict, right? We support negotiations. We want to see an end to the conflict. We want to see an end to civilians not being in the crossfire, but being the target in this conflict throughout the region. The quicker this conflict ends, the better it will be for the world. I mean, I know you listened to what I just said in terms of the UNCTAD findings of the impact this will have globally. I mean, when 95% of the ships that usually transit through the Strait of Hormuz stop transiting, has an effect on oil, has an effect on fertilizer, which has a knock-on effect on people's ability to grow, to plant and to grow food. And let's not forget, the Strait of Hormuz, which needs to be returned to a state of freedom of navigation, according to international law, works in two directions. So there are a lot of goods that are also not getting to the countries in the Gulf, goods that are desperately needed. So we want to see an end to this conflict, but we're not going to prejudge whatever agreement can be negotiated.
Well, it's a question of, to use a trite phrase, the chicken and the egg here, which comes first. For example, would the Secretary General be amenable, and I know he's not a party, but he's expressed his opinion many times about the importance of negotiation. Would he see a path forward of at least tying a ceasefire to Iran's agreement to reopen the Straits of Hormuz? After all, it was Iran, one party, that illegally closed the strait.
We want to see freedom of navigation restored to the Strait of Hormuz, and that is not just the Secretary General asking for it. That is the Security Council. They passed a resolution along those lines. The Secretary General, as you know, also appointed a personal envoy, Jean Arnaud, to see what he can do to bring a return to peace to the region. Mr. Abdelhamid Sayam.
Thank you, Stephen. Follow up to the issue of the Strait of Hormuz. The Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi just stated that they're willing to share the administration and the open and closing of Hormuz with Oman. Do you see that a kind of softening their position? Would the UN reach out to Oman and to Iranian to see if there is a breakthrough with UN special envoy now?
Look, I will let you and your colleagues do the analysis. You're better at that than I am. As you know, we also, the Secretary General announced a mechanism which is being led by our colleague Jorge Moreira da Silva of UNOPS to try to get fertilizer and key fertilizer ingredients out of Hormuz and key humanitarian aid in to Hormuz. And to that effect, he is speaking to all the permanent representatives and others who are involved.
My second question on Gaza. In the last 24 hours, 4 Palestinians were killed and 12 were wounded. I did not hear these numbers come in your brief. Every time there is a missing piece of information about the humanitarian situation in Gaza, it's all about how many people killed. 700 now, 13 Palestinians were killed since the what's so-called ceasefire, and 1,940 were wounded. And normally I listen always to your briefing when there is a piece of information about the lives of Palestinians is missing. I have to raise my voice and ask why.
We relay the information we get from the ground. The information on fatalities comes to us from the Ministry of Health in Gaza, and I think we've been very transparent in laying out the horrific situation that Palestinians are facing day in and day out in Gaza. Talal.
Thank you, Steph. Tomorrow there are 2 sessions at the Security Council. One in the morning about the GCC and the UN cooperation, one in the afternoon about the Arab League and the UN cooperation. A procedural question, do you think can you tell us, or do we know if the Secretary General will attend either of them or both of them or neither of them?
At this point, I don't think the Secretary General will be attending the sessions. But we will, I'll keep you updated if he does or who will represent him in case he does. Alex.
Thanks, Steph. Do you have any updates on the task force on the Strait of Hormuz?
No, I can tell you, I mean, what I can tell you is I spoke to George this morning. He's having a whole host of contacts here, meeting with a lot of permanent representatives, outlining what the proposal is and how to move forward. And I know there's a lot of interest on this effort. Okay, I will leave you with a permanent representative, not me, and I will see you later.